See, my face is a little bright over here. It's not by choice. It's just the sun is shining in over here. Okay.
Hi, you have reached the...
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit today about, we're continuing where we left off last time. If you recall, we discussed a little bit the we discussed throughout, we discussed the different mitzvahs involved with the end of life. Spoke about the mitzvah of visiting the sick, spoke about the many mitzvahs that one can do in conjunction with the end of life. And we're going to talk today a little bit about the respect we give a person after they pass. So as Jews, we give respect to the person. And we know a person is a composite, body and soul. So we need to, when a person passes away, we accord respect, lots of respect for the soul. Part of that, we say Kaddish, we give honor to the soul, we do mitzvahs for the soul, but also we show respect for the body, the physical body. One of the reasons why we give so much respect for the body is because even though the person passes away and the soul leaves the body, so why are we giving respect? So the first reason is because simply as a tribute to the body, this body was the receptacle, it was the vessel that shared, they share the same quarters with the soul. So the soul is a piece of God, and the body is the receptacle of the soul. So we need to treat it. We are thankful to the body for giving it a house for as many years as the person lived in this world. The body served the soul well. That's one explanation as to why we give so much, respect. Like I'm going to speak shortly about the different things we do for the body after it passes away to make sure that it's given the proper honor and dignity, before the person is buried. So, and the burial itself. So one reason might be because it was the receptacle, it was the vessel, the holy vessel for the body, for the soul. Soul is a piece of God, and the body treated the soul nicely and gave it a nice home for so many years. So, obviously a little bit rubs off on the body too. So the body becomes a holy body because it was the receptacle for the holy soul. It's one possible reason. The second reason is that not only is the soul a part of God, but the body also was created in the image of God. It says when Adam and Eve, when they were created by God, it says God created the body from the earth, but at the same time, it says that he created it in the image of God. So different than the soul is a part of God, it's a piece of God. The body is not a piece of God, but it is created, it's a creation of God. In what? In the image of God. So God, in his infinite wisdom, when he created our bodies, it's not like the DNA that make our body and make it go in a certain direction. And the fact that we have 2 eyes and 2 ears and a mouth and a nose, and we walk and we talk and all these things we do, they're not just survivalist things that God gave us to survive, but actually it's in the image of God. So if we have 2 eyes, that's in the image of God. If we have a nose and a mouth and 2 ears, that's in the image of God. We have a heart, we have a brain. The body is created in the image of God. Now, of course, we as Jews, we're not idolatrous, so we don't believe that God has an image, right? We don't believe God has an actual image. So what does it mean that we were created in the image of God, it means that we are reflections of God. Whatever we have is a reflection of a spiritual reality. and it evolves from that spiritual reality. Obviously, it's something totally different, but that doesn't make a difference. Every part of our body is holy because it is in the image of God. Follow what I'm saying? So when we say it's in the image of God, it means it evolves from a spiritual reality. It says there are 10 holy sfirot, 10 divine attributes. We also have those attributes within ourselves, and our body is shaped in a certain way and works in a certain way because we are a reflection of the divine. So albeit that the body is not a piece of God, it's a creation of God. And I'll emphasize that a few times because, some people actually believe that the body is God. We don't believe that. That's an idolatrous notion. What we do believe is that the body is the handiwork of God. And almost like when you have an artist, a beautiful artist that makes a beautiful painting, right? You call the art on the artist. Like you say, oh, that's a Picasso, or that's a Van Gogh, or that's a Rembrandt, or whatever, right? It's not Rembrandt. Why do you call it a Rembrandt? Why are you calling it a Picasso? You go pinch the piece of art, it won't scream. It's not Picasso. But we call it Picasso. You see that? That's Picasso. That one there is Van Gogh. That one over there is some other famous artist. Entire museums are named after that person because it contains the art of that artist. Why do we name the art? Because the soul of the artist is reflected in their art. And so we can also say that the soul of God, so to speak, is reflected in the creation. So we look at the genome. Scientists found that the genome has like billions of particles in it. Each genome in every human being. There are billions of details. They mapped it out, and there's an incredible, it's mind-boggling how many details there are in every cell of every human being. What is that genome? That genome is God's fingerprint. It's God's handiwork. And so when you look at your body, some people are dismissive of the human body. Say, "Oh, who cares about the body and soul?" No. As Jews, we have a mitzvah throughout our life to take care of our body and not to neglect the body, because the body is the handiwork of God, and we have a duty to take care of that creation of God. And not only is it the handiwork of God, it's in the image of God. It's the Picasso, it's the Van Gogh, it's the Chagall. No, all we look at the body, we say this is a God. This is Hashem. Right? This is Hashem's handiwork. So that's a very important thing too. So far we told you two reasons to honor the body. One is it was the receptacle for the soul. Reason number two, it is the handiwork of God, and it is in the image of God. So therefore we need to respect it. And a third reason is because we as Jews, we believe in Tchiyat HaMesim. We believe that the body will come back. I know that's a hard concept to absorb and to digest, but we as Jews, we say it every day in the prayer. We say, Tchiyat HaMesim, Mechaya Mesim, that God will revive the dead. the Jewish tradition of the revival of the dead goes way back. We see it in numerous places alluded to, but it's quite clear in the book of Ezekiel, where God brings back to life a whole army that had been dead already for a few hundred years. And he brings them back to life. That's called the prophecy of the dry bones, where Ezekiel says that there's no hope and things are really bad, and God takes him to the valley of the dry bones and he shows him, you think there's no hope? Watch, I'll bring back to life an entire army of dead. So there's always hope. Right? He said, and God told the army, the dead army to rise, and they all rose from the dead. And God said, so too, I will bring back hope. And for there comes the concept of Tchiyat HaMeisim. The Jews, we believe in the revival of the dead. And the Rambam codifies it as one of the 13 principles of faith. So the body, even when it's lifeless, even when the soul has left the body, we believe that that body has not completed its mission yet. It's not completed its story. Just like we believe that the soul is eternal and the soul will come back and the soul lives on, we also believe that the body will return and will come back. And even though our eyes seem to show us that the body decomposes, and we know that the bodies are, that they from the moment the person passes away, all the cells and everything start to decompose. But it's our belief that the body will return. And in fact, like in the Talmud, it speaks about how will the body return. And it says that there is a part of the body that's indestructible, that never decomposes. And it calls it the luz bone. Not lose like a loser, lose. L-U-Z, Lamed Vav Zayin. It's called the luz bone. Etzem luz. It's a bone that's on top of the spine that is very, very hard and is never destroyed. Even the strongest, like heat and fire, doesn't allow for that bone to be destroyed. In fact, I remember at 9/11, there was a fellow from our synagogue that was in the second plane that left Boston and went to hit the Twin Towers. His name was a fellow named Edmund Glazer. A nice fellow with a nice family. His parents were members in our shul. And he was in that second plane. And on the plane, actually, when he got onto the plane, he said goodbye. He spoke to his wife actually on the phone. That's how they knew for sure he was on the plane. And then the plane, unfortunately, he was in the second plane. It was going from Boston to LA. He lived in LA. Actually, his business was in LA, and his family was in Boston. So you see it in all the movies, that second plane hitting the Twin Towers. It immediately exploded, and there must have been fires, crazy fires that were there. And but about a year later, they recovered a part of his body. And surprise, surprise, it was actually the spine, piece of the spine. That's what they found. I mean, that's what was left over. It survived the fires of the Twin Towers. I remember I had to go break the news to the parents. It was quite a sad situation. But a few months later, they came to take like a DNA sample from the parents. And that's how they were able to identify the DNA. So that there is that part of the body. I've been looking up in some scientific journals, in fact, and there's a bone that's on top of the spine. It's called, you can look it up, it's called petrous, Petraus. Petros. And they found that bone is like it's so hard, nothing can crush it, nothing. In the Talmud, it speaks about one of the Roman princes or generals. He came to the rabbis and he said, "It's not true. This bone, this loose bone, that it survives. Come." He said, "I'll show you." He tried burning it, it didn't burn. He tried, it was Adrianus. He was a general from the Romans. And he said, "Come, I'll show you, I can destroy it." And he took the bone and he tried burning it. And he says that he tried grinding it and the grinder broke. He tried doing everything and he couldn't. So, I mean, the loose bone also, to me, it's also a symbol of the indestructibility of the Jewish people. We're like, symbolically, we're like the loose bone, a part of the human experience that nothing can destroy it, right? Like all other nations, and they disappeared. But the Jew is like the loose bone of the world, of humanity, right? Because we continue to live on. But in practical sense, this is what it says. It says that the loose bone is that even though most of the body is after years disappears, but there's a little loose bone that's left over. And I wondered about this for many, many years. And then after Steven Spielberg made the movie, movie about the dinosaurs, what's it called? The Jurassic Park. So the whole theory of the movie was that if you can get a little cell, one cell from a creature from years ago, you can reproduce it. And that's how he reproduced those crazy, wild, uncontrollable dinosaurs, right? But the concept is scientifically true today, holds true. And today we know that in laboratories you can do a process called cloning, where you can take a cell from something and you can create an entire creature just from that one cell. So theoretically, if we were able to get even a single cell from a person that lived 1,000 years ago, you could reproduce the person from that cell. So years ago, when it said in the Gemara, there's a bone. So you wondered, why does God need a bone? It's a major miracle. There's no logic to it, What does he need a bone for? He just make the person again. In the revival of that, no. But here we see there's some kind of every bone has the entire DNA code. Every cell has the entire DNA code. So you see what's happening is that God can recreate the entire human being from that little bone. It would almost be like not even a miracle. It would be like science. You could take that cell that survives and recreate the person. Okay, but what happens exactly in the time of the revival of the dead? I don't know. It's a lot of questions what goes on. I don't have all the answers, but I'm just telling you that the theory of it makes a lot of sense. So we believe that when a person passes away, that body is going to return. And when we say to someone, may you be reunited with your loved ones. Most people think reunited with your loved ones is just in the heavens, yeah? But you'll never hug them again. You'll never shake their hands again. And I was telling you, no, reunite with your loved ones on the one sphere, yes, in the spiritual level, yes, but also even on a physical level. You'll be together again. Can't prove you these things, but I can tell you what the beliefs are. Okay? But this is an important belief, that the body we believe will return. So when a person passes away, we need to show the greatest of respect, not just to the soul, but also to the body. A, the receptacle. B, it's created in the image of God. It's God's creation. C, for utilitarian purpose, because this body will return. So it's not the end of the story. You don't dispose of it. And that's one of the reasons why actually cremation is forbidden. Because that is like a rejection of the principle of the return of the body. A lot of people ask me, what about the people that were burnt in the Holocaust? You know, what about all the people that was against their will? So for them, God will figure out a way to do it without even having anything left. Or you can say that maybe some of it is still left somewhere, because like you said, the loose bone is not destroyed completely. I don't want to tell you gory stuff, but they say even the people that are burnt, cremated, right? There are parts that they don't give you, that they take out of the box that aren't destroyed even by the fire. It needs to still be ground or whatever, right? Anyways, but that's a gory thing, and I'm not going to go there. But regardless, our belief is that the body will return. Hence, this tremendous respect that we need to give to the body. So, because of all of that, there is a procedure after a person passes away that is taken care by the Chevra Kadisha. Chevra Kadisha is the holy group. Chevra is a Chevra, Chaverim. Kadisha is holy. The holy friendship, the holy society, it's called. And that's the group of people. And in most communities, they used to have a group of people, and that was their job. They were in charge of the burial. They were the burial society. They were known as Chevra Kadisha, the holy guys. Because why is it holy? Why are they called holy? Because they're given the holy task of taking care of the holy body. Many places they also call it Chesed Shel Emes, kindness of truth. When Jacob passed away, he told his son Joseph, he says, I'm going to die, I'm old, I'm dying. He says, I want you to do for me kindness and truth, and make sure that my body is not buried in Egypt. Take me back to Israel. I want to be buried in Israel. So the commentaries say, what does it mean? Jacob is telling Joseph, do for me kindness and truth. Kindness, we understand why it's kindness. It's an act of kindness. If the person dies, take care of them to bring the body back to Israel. Fine, that's what the kindness is. But what did he mean by saying kindness and truth? What's the truth? To keep his word? Maybe. But the commentaries say that it's called Chesed Shel Emes. It's a kindness of truth. Why is it called? Why it's the most true kindness possible. Most kindnesses that we do to people in this life come with ulterior motives. And even if we claim we don't have ulterior motives, we hope that maybe the person that you help one day might give you some kind of benefit in return. So if you help a poor person, so of course you're doing it for the mitzvah, but somewhere in the back of your mind, you might be thinking maybe one day he'll become Bill Gates and then he'll give you back something even more. So you always can have some kind of a ulterior motive. Every kindness we do has an ulterior motive. By the way, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Give me Jacob says, do for me kindness of truth. Because every kindness we do in this world is usually with a little bit of tinge of ulterior motive. The only kindness where there is absolutely no ulterior motive is the kindness you do for the dead. Because they can do nothing for you anymore in the physical world for you. They can't do a physical favor for you anymore, because now they are not in a position to do that. So when you help the person that passed away and you do kindness to them, that is the highest order of kindness. That's called chesed shel emet. Kindness of truth. It's the true kindness. It's the ultimate kindness without any possibility of ulterior motives, of anything in return. So that's why Jacob said to his son, I want you to do for me kindness and truth. A kindness which is a truthful one. And honor my body when I pass away and bring my remains back to Israel. So that's what he told him. So this group that known as the Chevra Kadisha, sometimes they were called Chevra Chesed Shelemis. They were called the group of the true kindness, because that's what they do. And especially in the old communities, there was no payment, no nothing. They didn't do it for payment. They did it just as a mitzvah. And even today, you have groups of people that do it in some shuls, in some communities, that they join the Chevra Kadisha, especially in small towns, where it's not like a city like Toronto where there are official, funeral homes and they have their own, people that work for them that organize taking care of the dead. But in the small communities, especially people that come from small communities will know that they used to have it was a volunteer basis, and these volunteers would do it just for the mitzvah. And they were respected in the community for doing that. I guess they didn't do it for the respect, because then it wouldn't be chesed shel emes, but they were respected in the community for doing that. And I say, like today also, there are people that do that, and they join a group, and that's what they do. So part of what the Chevra Kadisha do is obviously they take the body when the person passes away, but there is a ritual washing of the body that needs to be done before the body is placed in shrouds and then placed in the casket. And that is known, that process is known as the Tahara. I don't know if you ever heard it. Tahara, it's called making a Tahara. Tahara means a purification. So here we go. So the group is called the Chevra Kadisha, the holy group. And the holy group, they perform this ritual known as the Tahara. And Tahara is a process of washing the body and preparing it for the burial. And it's a ritual washing of the body. So I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but basically there are many traditions associated with that ritual, which are mystical, very deep, and very spiritual. And the people that do it, they feel like a spiritual experience when they're involved in this particular activity, particular ritual. I've done it numerous times, and tell you that it's something very, very, very special. Like I say, it's a kindness you could do for someone that they never can repay you, and it's also it's reaffirming the holiness of a human being. That every human being is not a person is not a disposable thing. Person is something that we believe has its place in Hashem's plan, and now and in the afterlife as well. So part of what is done at the Chevra Kadisha, they wash the body. They wash it with they have a special washing cups that like we use when you wash your hands. They use that. And also they have like some pieces of cloth that you wash down the body. You start from the top of the person, from the head, and there are special blessings you recite as you're washing the different parts of the body. So you start off with the head, and then you go from different parts of the body, and you wash the fingers. And it's interesting that so they wash the fingers and they make sure that there's no like dirt in the fingers. There's no like underneath the nails. It's clean. And they wash it a few times. They always do the right before the left side. These are a few people working simultaneously, and one of the reasons why when we cut nails for the living people, when people cut nails, if you look in the code of Jewish law, it says you're not supposed to cut them directly one after the other. You're not supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because he says because that's what they do for the dead. They go 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger, 4. When you cut your nails, it says you should skip a nail this time and then come back to them. So you look at the code of Jewish law. It's because the reason why you need to do it that way is it shouldn't be like chas v'shalom, like the dead. The dead is specific, that it's consecutive fingers. So when you cut your nails, you clean your nails, before Shabbos or whatever, you make sure that you jump nails. So the way to do it is like it's brought in the code of Jewish law. It's you start with the right hand, and you do the finger number 2, finger number 4, finger number 1, finger number 3, and 5. And on the left hand, you do finger number 4, finger number 2, finger number 5, finger number 3, and finger number 1. Hey, I like that. I knew that by heart. I must have cut my nails a few times. Anyways, so that way we do it a certain way, that we cut the nails to be reminiscent, to think about the way we deal with, we wash. Now, after we finish washing the entire body, there also is in the casket, there is it's customary that it's a big mitzvah to be buried in Israel. So if someone is buried in Israel, that's fine. But those that are buried outside of Israel, in the casket, they place a little bit of earth from Israel. They have bags in the Chavre Kadisha. They have little bags of earth. Comes like in a plastic bag, and you place some of it in the casket by near the head, under the head, and they place a little bit in other places too. And a little bit of earth is placed on certain other parts of the body. And after for the first day, they wash the body, and then after they wash the body, it's preferable to, if there's a mikveh, many of the funeral homes, they have mikvahs built in, so that the body, after it's washed, it's dunked into a mikveh 3 times. They have a special boards, like wooden boards that the body is placed on, so it's respectful, and the person is placed under the water 3 times. In many communities, they can't afford a mikveh. They don't have a mikveh, so they do after they finish the individual washing of the body, they just pour a lot of water on the person's, called tisha kavim, 9 measurements of water. That means an abundance of water that's placed 3 times on the entire body. I'm just giving you a little bit of idea of what goes on in there. And then after the body is washed down, they put on the ritual garments. Now the ritual garments are made out of linen. They're plain white garments. One of the great rabbis of the Mishnah established that everybody should be buried the same. That you shouldn't have some people buried in fancy clothes and others in simple clothes. So that when you die, there's no difference, there's no distinction between the rich and the poor. So the Jewish tradition is that everyone is buried simply. There's always been, and that's why the shrouds that the person is buried with are without any ornaments, without anything. It's all plain white shrouds made out of linen, plain linen. That's a cheaper garment. And so there are numerous garments that are worn. There's the undergarments and the top garments, and then at the end they also place a gartel. A gartel is like a sash on like first like many people wear true like a gartel. It's like a belt made out of cloth. Goes on, and And they also place, like I say, some of that earth is placed in the box. And for men, in addition to the shrouds, they also place the talus. Talus the person wore in their lifetime. The men with talesim, they place the talus also inside the casket and surrounding the person. So it's like a layer on top of the. So that's why many times when a person passes away, the Chevra Kadishu asks the family if they have a talus for that person, right? And they pull off one of the tzitzit is pulled off, because after a person dies, you can't perform any more the mitzvot. So they remove one of the corners. So there's no tzitzis, because when a person dies, there is no more the observance of the physical mitzvahs. And then they put the talus around the person, and then they close the casket. And usually the Chevra Kadisha, like I said, they say prayer. There's different prayers that are said throughout each part of these segments of this activity. And at the conclusion, the head of the Chevra Kadisha stands there, and he asks forgiveness from the deceased. That whatever they did, the entire ritual, everything they did was only for their honor, for his honor. And if they did anything, they slipped up or whatever, they ask for forgiveness from him on behalf of the Chevra Kadisha, on behalf of everybody else. And then they close the top of the casket. And they also, when they speak to the deceased, they also ask that the deceased go before Hashem and pray for the family and pray for everybody else, and to ask Hashem to bring an end to all the tzaros in the world, that you bring Mashiach. So these are things that they speak, so to speak, out loud in the room to the deceased. And then afterwards, the casket is rolled out and brought to wherever it's going for the funeral. So, anyways, I'm sorry for leaving you in the middle of this thing, but I'm just giving you some pictures about how much and how important is the honor and the respect. And it's tied in with this week's parsha, because the parsha of the week we read about, it says, you honor your father and mother. Right? Honor your father and mother, it says that in the parsha of the week, right? So there's honoring them in their life, and then there's also honoring them, respecting people in the afterlife. Right? So these activities and these rituals are all part of the mitzvah of the Torah to afford honor to our loved ones. So honor your father and mother, not only their soul, but also their body. The respect for the body goes, and in the Jewish tradition, it's about doing it yourself. And we'll continue a little bit more with Hashem next week. Stay tuned for our deadly subject. And whatever. So if anyone has any questions on what we spoke, we might have some questions.
Yeah,
So.
Rabbi,
Yes.
the body can never be left alone, right? The body's guarded all the time.
Right. It says that as soon as a person passes away, you have to have somebody there with the body the whole time. It's known as a Shomer. So in the hospital, many times when people die or at home, they have to make sure people don't make sure not to leave the bedside. There should be somebody there. One person has to leave, someone else should be there. It's sort of like an honor that you're giving. Part of the honor you're giving is to be there. Obviously, it's better if you say some Tehillim, you read some Psalms, but more important than that is actually someone should be standing there on guard. Like, I stand on guard for thee, kind of like to be there, the honor. I mean, in the olden days, especially, this tradition comes from because people lived on the farm and on this and that, and to leave a cadaver, a dead body alone was with the animals and everything like that was a dangerous thing. Like, not dangerous, but they come and chop a piece or whatever, right? So that's the origins of this thing. But the mitzvah is to stand there and to be there, not to leave the person alone, because we treat him like it would be a living person, the honor, the covet that we give to the person, not to walk away and say, oh, he's like, the person's dead, that's it. No, they're there completely in their full existence and their spiritual consciousness. They're there as well. Yeah. Go ahead. Next question. Yeah, go ahead, Arlene.
Yeah, hi there. I wanted to ask you something. When I wanted to see my mother at the end in the casket, all pretty and made up and ready, I was so disappointed. They put broken plates on her
of dish.
On the eyes.
On the two eyes, yeah. I didn't go there.
I know what.
I didn't say that. Yeah, right. You said it was very disturbing. You're saying, huh?
Yes, because I wanted to see her complete and beautiful, and this was not the way I wanted to leave her. Right. But they did it here in Toronto at Steele's, but I had a service here. But then I'm from Montreal originally, so my father, the Shomer, is in Montreal. So they moved her into Paperman's in Montreal on Sunday. And then they promised me they'll make her back the way I wanted. So it just was very disturbing.
Yeah. Let me. It's a bit of a longer piece. I'll talk a little bit next week to that, maybe about viewing the remains and all that, and some of the other things we do for the deceased, things we put into the box and what we can't put in the box, etc., etc. So. We'll mention some of that next week in Mitzvah. And any other questions?
If I may ask, I had a very similar experience when my brother passed away. They placed sand on his eyes, and it was an open casket. And somebody almost fainted when they saw him like that. Is there a particular places where the sand from Israel is placed?
That's what I said. Yeah. So there's a number of places I mentioned before, which I didn't say which the places are, because I didn't want to get anybody like hurt by it. But those are the places. I'll speak a little bit more to that next week, because it's really part of the same subject about the presentation and the viewing. Yeah.
Okay, Rabbi. Yeah. In respect to reincarnation. Would the soul then, because we'd have many different bodies that have died over the years, would the soul then have to split to go into all the bodies that would be resurrected?
Yeah, well, the thing is like this, that, not every soul comes back down again. It's only if it didn't fulfill what it had to fulfill. So then it would come back, be resurrected. We're not assuming that everybody comes back everybody comes back in reincarnation. Sorry, not everybody comes back in the circulation. But if a person had to come back in a reincarnation, so then the part of the person that completed their mission in the one life, that part splits off right then and there and does not come down into the second person. You understand what I'm saying? So that soul is split at that point. Almost like the brain, you may be using a lifetime, use 5% of your brain. Is the other 95%. But that other 95% has nothing to do with you, because you didn't develop it in this lifetime. So the part of the person that's distinctly connected to this body, it splits off after the person dies, and if something has to come back, it's another part of the soul, right? And that other part of the soul will get attached to the new body, and then it will come back in the resurrection. Did you follow what I just said, or it was a little confusing?
It is confusing, because I would think everybody would come back.
No, I'm saying everyone's coming back. Everybody's coming back, but I'm just the soul. After one lifetime, the soul completes its mission in this life. So when it comes to heaven, it might have more left to do. So then it might return again in a reincarnation. But what I'm saying is, at that point, before it even comes down, the part of the person that did complete its mission, that becomes the identity associated with the first body.
Oh, I see.
That goes to heaven and stays in heaven, while the other half of its soul comes back down. So the first half stays in heaven. That becomes connected to that. It's only connected to the first body. And then at the time, years later, when there'll be a resurrection of the dead, That soul will come to that body. Now, the second part of that soul will now form its own identity with a body in the second lifetime. And now it becomes a separate entity, which belongs now to another body.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay. But that also really deserves another shear. It's not the one foot. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
you were saying earlier that when a man dies, he's buried with his talit. Is
Right.
there anything for a woman?
Is the what?
Anything specific for when a woman dies?
No, other than no. The talus, because that was a garment that they wore the whole life. That's why it's sent along. But it's a ritual garment that they wore the whole life. Now, no one ever asked me what happens if a woman. Some women used to wear talis, and in the history of the Jewish people, question is, would the Chevra Kadisha take that talus and bury them with? I've never heard the question being asked, but that would be an interesting question. Yeah. But there is nothing. There's nothing really that goes into the casket. Like you can't send along a Shabbos candles or tefillin or anything. You can't. It's only the talus, because the talus really doesn't have any holiness of its own, other than it's used for the tzitzit. That's why you take the tzitzit off, and you bury the person in the talus. But you can't. You're not allowed to put anything else into the casket besides for the other items which we spoke about before. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we good? Basil, we're good?
Good question, but I'm not going to.
Bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Everybody.
shalom.
We'll see you tomorrow for the Shabbos program, hopefully. If not, see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.